Welcome to LFFL Primetime, everything you need to know in more than 5 minutes because we got some playoff matchups. Playoffs? Got some playoffs coming up this week. So let's start in the original league. We had some great action this week. We had a tie. Matt and Andy actually tied this week. Was won by Matt, 72 bench points, Andy 62 bench bench points, 131-32 to 132. But why is this important? Andy's currently a playoff team. Matt is currently not a playoff team. Brings us all closer together, doesn't it? And in other action, I am not a playoff team currently. Beat Miles, who is a playoff team currently. We're getting closer together. Bill in the sixth spot. Greg, higher than sixth spot. Bill wins. So far, the first three games, we have three of the lower record teams winning. Last two teams kind of spoiled that. Eric and Phil both took a step towards the bye weeks with their wins over lesser competition. So let's take a look at this. Eric has indeed clinched a bye week with his win this week, and the losses by Andy and Greg puts him in a good place. 3 up with just 2 to play. Eric will be one of your bye week teams. Phil is now a game clear for the bye week, and if you look at his points scored, significantly stronger than both Andy and Greg. Phil very much looks like he will be your second bye week this year, I should say, as well. Andy and Greg fall back to 7 and 5, still in solid playoff position at this point. Bill and Miles at 6 and 6 occupy the final 2 playoff wildcard spots. But look at this. My team and Matt, that's right, the old guard, charging hard at 5 and 7. The defending champ is in a bad spot. It's 4 and 8. Will need to win out and need some significant help. Todd has been eliminated from the playoff race this year. Looking at week 13 in the LFFL, big one here. If Josh wants to stay alive, he's got to win this game. Rematch of last year's wild card game, which was won by Josh. Andy won the earlier game this season, 124-121 back in week 2. Andy holds a 23-19 series lead over here. Greg taking on Miles. This is a huge game for the Chase Pack. Obviously, Matt, myself, we're going to be rooting for a Greg win over here. Greg did beat Miles 114-101 in week 1 and holds a 6-3 series lead. Matt, that should say 5 and 7, not 7 and 5. Matt at 5 and 7, taking on Todd at 2 and 10. This is a rematch of the original Super Bowl 1993, which was won by Todd. Matt did get back at him Super Bowl 5 in 97. Todd beat Matt in week 2 for his 11th straight win over Matt. Now he holds a commanding, he holds a 38-34 lead in this long-standing rivalry. If Matt wants to make the playoffs, he's going to have to snap this 11-game losing streak, beat Todd this week. And then finally, I've got a formidable opponent as I try to make a playoff push. 10 and 2 Eric comes to my house at 5 and 7. So first matchup of 2023, but of course a rematch of 2 different Super Bowls, Super Bowl 11 and Super Bowl 20. I've traditionally gotten the better of this series by a lopsided margin, which is always surprising to me given how good Eric is at this stuff, 37-14. But your primetime matchup is right here. If Bill Berardi wants to keep this playoff position solidified, going to have a tough opponent this week. Phil is second in this league in scoring. These two hooked up in week 1 with Phil winning that game, 145-112. Last week, Bill beat the younger Kaufman brother, his 4th consecutive win on the season. Looks to keep this things rolling against the older Kaufman brother. Phil has won 3 of his last 4 in pursuit of that bye week. As I say, Phil's second in scoring, Bill 4th. So I would expect a high-scoring game right here. Bill has a strong 22-13 series lead in this battle of former roommates. I did not expect that. Fantrax currently has Phil as a 14-point favorite to pull out the W. Look into your LFFL 2. What a game between Andy and Eric. I cannot remember a better fantasy game in our little leagues. I can think of some that were comparable, but could this be the greatest LFFL 2 game ever? Are we going to get a movie about this down the road? Andy and Eric hook up for an 81-80 thriller. Let's take a look at the teams, shall we? Oh, I'm sorry, I snipped it a little too close. We didn't see Justin Herbert and Josh Allen. Andy jumped out to a massive lead. Raheem Mostert, a couple of touchdowns. Andy had a huge Dallas defense, had 11 points. Then early games, we had Mike Evans scoring a couple of touchdowns. He had a huge lead, right? And then Eric came roaring back at one point about 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the evening. Andy was like a 30-point favorite. Eric comes rolling back. What you can't see there is Josh Allen. Josh Allen just kept scoring and scoring and scoring some more, pulls Eric all the way back, and he pulls to 81-80 and has Jordan Addison left. But look at this. Jordan Addison, I told you 9 of 11 weeks, he had scored points. Eric didn't even score. He does not. 6 catches for 39 yards, and the Bears upset one of the Vikings last night. Eric, a 1-point loser to Andy. Holy cow. Look at their projected totals. They were 53 and 55. They score 81 and 80. Cannot tell you how awesome this game was to watch. It was a thriller. It's a shame someone had to lose this game, But what that means is, look at this. Andy has now pulled to 11-1, 2 games clear of Eric. Plus, he now has a tiebreaker because he's beaten Eric twice. So he's got a 2.5 game lead with 6 to play. Going to be tough for Eric to overcome that challenge, but look at this. These two teams have been awesome. The class of the league so far, well, pulling away from the league. In other action this week, we did have myself was able to beat Greg. Todd was able to beat Phil. Miles solidifies his third place position with an over Bill. And then Merrill's a 1-point win over Sean. As I say, Miles in third. We have Greg and Phil kicking around at 6-6. Todd at 5-7. Everybody else at 4-8 because we all stink. This week, Eric takes on me. I can help my brother advance closer to the title if I can get a win this week. We'll see if I can show some brotherly love to my brother. Bill taking on Greg. Andy taking on Sean this week. Todd taking on Miles, Phil, and the Merrill brothers. LFFL 3, Todd wins, almost locks in a bye week over here. He's now up 2 with 2 to play, a convincing win over Bill. Other winners this week. Eric, the high score this week against Andy at 161. I'm able to drop a 140 spot on Greg. Why is that important? Greg was in second place, 2 games clear of Eric and I. Eric and I are now pulling 1 game within Greg with that win by me and by him. Matt Merrill beats Miles. We had Matt Brennan beat Sean, and Phil beats Nate. Look at these standings. Tied by 10-2. Basically just needs a win or a loss by Eric and I to clinch that bye week. Greg, however, much more tenuous spot at the bye week. Eric and I are leading this league in points scored right now. Significantly higher than Greg. Is not likely to catch us. So if either one of us can get up into a tie with Greg, those points scored will carry us to the bye week. Can we do it? We'll see. Bill, Matt Brennan, and Phil all tied for the final 2 playoff spots at 7-5. Miles is at 6-6 currently. And then we got a bunch of also rans down here. Andy, Sean, Matt Merrill, and Nate are out of this year. Look at this game at the top. Todd Meyer taking on myself. Huge playoff implications right there. We have Sean taking on Eric. Eric could definitely use that victory this week. Miles taking on Mr. Phil. Miles has dropped the game out of the playoffs. If he wants to get back in the race, here's your chance to do it. Team right above you. Bill taking on Greg. Huge implications. Both playoff teams at this time. Matt Merrill taking on Nate. Matt Brennan taking on my brother. LFFL4, congratulations to my good friend Phil Kaufman. He won our main slate, his first win of this season and 16th of his storied career, a 169.74 output. I was able to take the silver, Jeremy the bronze. On Monday night, congratulations to Miles Moore. A 93.58 score takes his second showdown win of the season and his 6th showdown win of his illustrious career. Phil takes second over here. I'm just going to make a solid move in the standings, and I take third, meaning I'm also going to make a solid move in the standings. So in those standings, Eric at 129, but look, I pulled up to 127, tight to Eric. Greg at 116, but look at this. Phil moved all the way up to 4th at 112 with a strong week. Miles at 102 has also cracked the century mark. We have 3 contests this week. We have a Thursday night game between Seattle and Dallas. That is an email. We have a 10-game main slate because we have 6 teams on bye this week. So could be kind of dicey on that main slate there. And then we have a Monday Night Football game between Cincinnati and Jacksonville. LFFL 5, Bill won this week. Put the pressure on the teams in front of him. But at the end of the day, we had a win by Sean that solidified his playoff position. And Greg and I will also be in the playoffs because we have more points scored than Bill in spite of having the same record. This week, Phil was able to beat me. Miles was able to beat Bill. We had Eric beating Nate. Sean beating Greg, and then Andy beating Todd to win the season. Now, your playoffs look like this. We have weeks 13 through 15 are semifinals. Week 16 and 17 is your Super Bowl. So let's look at these playoff matchups. We have Phil taking on here's my slide. We have Phil taking on Casey. That is right, number 1 seed Phil. His 4th playoff trip in 6 years in this league. He has a career 2-2 playoff record. Phil's won 5 of his final 6 games and leads this league in scoring. Phil is your defending champion after a win last year. This is my 5th trip in 6 seasons of LFFL play. I have a 5-2 record. I did get wins in Super Bowl 1 and Super Bowl 2 in 2018 and 2019. However, I lost last year in Super Bowl to Phil, and I lost my last 2 games of the regular season, including getting smoked by Phil last week. Your other matchup, the 2-3 game, number 2 seed Sean making his first ever LFFL5 playoff appearance. Congratulations, Sean, on a job well done this year. He won his final 2 regular season games to cruise into the playoffs on a good note. Number 3, Greg, not as good. Lost 3 of his last 4, but he is the only manager to appear in the playoffs every single season of this league. Does boast a 5-4 record with a win in 2020. Greg actually appeared in the Super Bowl the first 4 seasons of this league. Last year was the first year he did not make the Super Bowl. These two met twice in the regular seasons. Greg won the Week 8 matchup. Sean returning the favor in Week 12, winning over there. Good luck to all those teams. Remember, a 3-week semifinal coming up. LFFL 6, woo, we had some things to talk about here. Greg and Matt Brennan continue to trade that top spot. This week, it is Greg on top over Matt Brennan. Jeremy jumps from 3 all the way up to number 1 in August with the high score of the week, a 163.2, high score in any of the leagues. We also have new leaders in June for Phil and in February for Eric. Congratulations to all those teams and their big moves this week. LFFL 7, your elimination is indeed Eric. It was a close one with Bill. At the end of the day, Eric's the one going home. Joins the list of out competitors. We're down to 3 teams left. Bill Berardi, Nate Waldron, Thomas McGee. One of those 3 teams is going to be your winner this week. As you can tell, I'm not this week, this year. Thomas and Nate significantly higher in points scored than Bill. Can Bill keep it going, keep surviving? He's been doing some serious surviving the last few weeks. LFFL 8, I am maintain my lead here. I get a little breathing room. Greg has gone real close to me. Little breathing room this week. Isaiah outscored Greg this week. Matt Brennan sits in 3rd place. And LFFL 9, congratulations to Bill. This is looking like potentially a win for him. 100-point lead over Todd with just 1 week left to play. Jeremy and I had a much closer game. I've increased my lead to about 45 points, but we have 1 week left. This can go either way in our 6-15 matchup down here. Congratulations to all 4 of these teams making the semifinals, but we still have 1 week left to solidify that spot in the championship round. That is all I have for this week. I really thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great week of football this week. I hope you win games, unless you're playing me, because it's winning time right now. I need some wins. It's getting close to December here. We'll talk to you soon.